Hey, this is Sean Russell from the Supra Street Network. We are out here for the Top Speed Shootout, Minter Field, Shafter, California, out in the middle of nowhere outside of Bakersfield. We're running half mile. We brought a variety of cars, everything from BBI's twin-turbo 1500 horsepower Porsche to E46s, Supras, mildly built GTRs. So as a wild card, we brought out a Kawasaki ZX-14R. This is bone stock. You see the mirrors, you see the mud flap. To the wheels, they're making about 180 to 185 horsepower, 109 foot-pounds of torque. Pretty much all the cars here are 500 plus horsepower. Trap speeds are ranging depending on car, but between 150 and 180. I'm looking to run against BBI's full-out race build. I don't think I can beat that. Also the Supra and the McLaren 12C. There's no trophies, there's nothing up for grabs. It's just bragging rights. The day opens with a driver's meeting by Tony Lopez of Omega Motorsports. For this top speed event, entries use the first couple hundred feet for rolling starts. This was partly to increase trap speed, but mostly to adhere to the airstrip's requirement of no burnouts on the tarmac.
My name is Frank Huang, and this is a 1994 Toyota Supra built by FSR Motorsports and tuned by David Jusko. Gosh, it's been through so many stages, but what I'm running right now is a mildly built motor with a 64mm turbo and running the fueling for E85. When I'm in the car, I'm just kind of focused on not crashing. So, I mean, it's fast, the ground's going by, but right here on the airstrip, it's pretty flat and they have a really good runway surface. So it's actually not as scary. I would say not as scary as driving down the 5. Oh, right now I'm hitting like 178, 179.
We gotta run again! We gotta run again!
That was awesome!
That was like last 50 feet!
It feels good beating a GTR. Yeah, it's nice because I mean, pretty much out of the box, it's really fast. So yeah, it's good. My name is Kenton Van Hollen. I'm from Rocky Mountain House, Alberta, which is in Canada. So yeah, it's a lot warmer down here. Quite enjoy the California weather. Running about 800 to the wheels today. So since I'm only about 70%, I can run up to 98% ethanol, which is what my high tune is, which is about 900 to the wheels.
E85 actually started out as a fuel designed to reduce tailpipe emissions, but a lot of performance enthusiasts have latched on to and started using this interesting fuel.
When I switched over to E85, I had to change out my whole fuel system, all the fuel lines, the Teflon rated fuel lines, different spec fuel pumps, and bigger injectors because you're usually consuming about 30% more fuel with the 85, and tuning, obviously, all that changed. So I installed a flex fuel sensor, and the AM Infinity calibrates for the ethanol content. So I can put pump fuel in all the way up to 98% ethanol.
A lot of people think that E85 is a powerful racing fuel. That's not really true. E85 is used in a lot of powerful racing vehicles. It's not that E85 necessarily makes more power. But what E85 does is it burns cooler and allows the air-fuel mixture to be under pressure at a much higher degree without detonating on its own. A high-performance engine that uses a lot of compression or boost to put more pressure on top of that piston likes to have a fuel that resists detonation, a fuel that will burn slower and cooler, a fuel that will only light when our ignition system decides to light that mixture.
The fastest car here is definitely the BBI Porsche.
My name is Batim Barisha from BBI Autosport. We brought out a car that we nicknamed King Kong. The owner of the car is actually Kong, and it's kind of the baddest car we've built at BBI, so his name was fitting. So last night at the shop, Jared and I were stabbing the motor in, and it was probably about, I would say 9:30 to 10 o'clock when we first fired it off. Buttoned the rest of the car up, under trace, the rest of the fuel system, exhaust, bumpers, and then we didn't leave the shop till about 1:30. Got to the shop this morning at 5:30 and drove the car up here so we could break the engine in before we did a couple runs. This car's making, well, last time we dynoed it, we've done a lot of different things to the engine, and so different boost levels of making them, but it is capable of 1500 horsepower. I would say we're every bit of 1200 today. Well, the last run we put together was awesome. We did a 200 mile, or 201.5 in the half, and it felt great. You know, it's wild. The run before, I mean, we didn't change anything. It's just like, you know, if you don't shift it right, and if you touch the rev limiter, and you can't get into 6 properly, all of that adds up. I mean, we picked up 8 miles an hour by just kind of sharpening up the driving and focusing a little bit, and then the guys have been just tuning on it, and they saw that earlier we're getting into traction control in 5th and 6th gear, so we dropped the tire pressure down. That helped that a lot out, and we're looking good. Well, the engine's actually pretty simple. It's our 3.8 liter bottom end, and then we took some stuff from the GT3 Cup car, some stuff that we've built, some little different top end, crazy manifold, and we're able to spin it to 9,000 RPMs all the time. And even at low boost, we were running 14 pounds. It made about 805 at the ground.
The heart of any engine has to do with what we call the bottom end. Crankshaft, pistons, rods, rings, the engine block itself. But the engine's ability to breathe is dictated a lot by the engine's cylinder head or cylinder heads that have the valves inside of them that have to open and close to allow the engine to breathe well. An engine's ability to breathe and its power potential is directly linked to the ability of the cylinder heads to flow air and get rid of exhaust. Naturally aspirated engines usually like high compression pistons. Contrast that with boosted engines. Boosted engines usually like to run low compression pistons, or sometimes they even use what they call dished pistons, because they look like a dish. The camshaft dictates where and when we're going to make our best horsepower and torque. The camshaft itself actuates the valves. It opens the valves for a certain amount of time, called the duration, and a certain amount of distance off the seat, called the lift. The camshafts open the valves, and we rely on the springs to close those valves. Camshafts and springs have to be matched. Tire pressures are just one more tool in a mechanic's toolbox to get more traction on the ground. All that effort we put into our engine, suspension, aerodynamics still comes down to 4 contact patches on the track surface.
Since this car's 2-wheel drive, tires are everything, you know, and with that, to make the tires work, you have to have the suspension and the chassis right. So we've gone through so many different sets of tires on this car trying to figure it out.
Competition tires have various ratings based on the speed that the vehicle is going to be driven at, and also based on the tire compound, how much traction they're going to get.
I look at tire diameter, so I get a little more top end speed, sidewall rating specifically. I like a 40 profile sidewall, and the tread wear rating, if it's a grippy tire or not.
Naturally, the stickier a tire is, the better grip you're going to get. But the tires are going to wear out at an accelerated rate.
These vehicles range from daily drivers to fully prepped race cars and everywhere in between. All of the drivers here use them as multi-purpose vehicles, many of which are driven every single day on the street.
We started to build this car out as kind of a dual-purpose car, something that you could drive to the tracks, something that you could turn the boost down and go road race it, and really, it kind of spawned into, let's do some straight line stuff with it also. It's a lot of fun, and we're able to really kind of flex what the engine can do and the rest of the chassis.
My motto with this car is keep it as stock looking as possible. And the interior is full stock interior. Nice sound system that I can remove in 30 seconds for the track or events like this. And as long as I can do everything with it, go out for groceries, take a girl out for dinner, something like that, and then drive it across the country. As long as I can do all those things in my car, then I'm happy.
All right, so fastest car of the day, hands down, was BBI's King Kong. Full race build, we can't touch it. It was trapping at over 200 miles per hour. But for the 14R, my favorite battle, without a doubt, was this Supra. It's a built Supra. It's making about 750 horsepower. Ran against him 4 to 6 times, I can't remember. And each time we were literally within a half car length either way. We were within a mile per hour of each other every time. It was just a great battle. No matter what we did, we were right next to each other the whole time. Most fun ever. So to get involved with a top speed event like this, there's many of them, more and more are popping up around the country. The requirements differ depending on who's running the event, but you're always gonna need usually a Snell approved helmet. You're normally gonna need to pass some form of tech inspection. But honestly, it's pretty easy. If you're able to run at your local drag strip, you are most likely able to run in these more open half-mile events. I highly suggest anyone interested who's never competed in a top speed event of this length to do it. Today, everything went without a hitch. We had tons of different battles, all sorts of cars. Everybody had a great time. Everybody had as many runs as they basically could get. I don't know how many runs I had, but it had to be at least 20 plus runs. Check it out. This is something I think every tuner, every car, speed enthusiast should do because it's a great thrill to have.